Hello, my name is Charlene, and I've been working in sustainable finance for almost 8 years now. And I really want to share my knowledge with you so you can learn how to grow your money, even if you don't have very much to begin with, in a way that's super ethical and sustainable, matching your money to your values around things like climate change and protecting animals and nature, and protecting women and people of colour. So I'm going to start with investment because two of the questions that I am asked the most are, where do I start and how do I know that where my money is going is actually doing good? So what I've done to help people compare and contrast all the different investment platforms out there that are offering ethical or sustainable or positive impact options is to sit down with each of them and have a coffee chat, which took about 20 minutes, and ask them all the same questions around things like greenwash. How do they know they're having a positive impact? How do they measure that? Why should anyone get started with investing in the first place, especially if you don't have very much money to begin with? So this is the first video in that series, and it's with the CEO of the Big Exchange, Jill Jackson. Big Exchange is a relatively new platform, but they were designed from the very beginning to help people to invest and save in a way that has a positive impact on the world, as well as helping people to grow their money. I hope you enjoy.
So thanks for joining me, Jill. And I first met you back in 2018 when you helped me out with a campaign to get more women investing. And yeah, it was just like so great to meet you and like your energy and everything that you were doing in the space. And I think it was just around then that you started to work with on the Big Exchange, right? It hadn't launched by that point. So you're another one of those platforms that exist specifically to provide investments that do have a positive impact. That's what you're all about. So I just wanted to kind of hear a little bit more about the journey. Like, how did it, where did Big Exchange come from? Where was the idea formed, and where are you now?
Thanks for having me, Charlene, in the first place. I can't believe it was 2018 that we met. It feels longer and shorter, both at the same time. I can't make my mind up. So the Big Exchange, where did it come from? I think first and foremost, the Big Issue Group. So we're co-founded by the Big Issue Group, and their chair, Nigel Kershaw, was really passionate about being able to democratise the access of investments, and particularly impact investments and investments that could make a difference to society, to the planet. And he was really keen to understand more about how you could make that happen. So there were lots of DIY investors, if you like, in the UK, but how many of those investors felt comfortable with investing and understanding how their money could make a difference as well as working financially for them. So Nigel got together a group of people from the industry, and my ex-colleague Campbell Fleming from Aberdeen Standard Investments, who's now actually the chair of the Big Exchange, got together with Nigel, got a group of people together, and they thought there was a lot of goodwill around and interest around how you could help people understand more about this type of investing. And that was really the birth of the Big Exchange. And I came in January 2019 and helped really take that initial idea, and turned it into reality by working with a number of brilliant partners from across the industry, like FNZ and Deloitte and Herbert Smith Freehills. A whole load of people got together to really make this happen, and it's been a real team effort. And now we've got an investment platform where people can trust and be comfortable that all the investments on there are really trying to work financially for them and create a positive impact to society and the planet. So we're delighted with getting the platform launched at the end of last year.
I know, it's so great. It was so great to see it all launch, because I know how hard you worked on it. So then just some questions really to like consumers, people that are thinking about investing. Like, why should anyone start investing? And is it worth it if you've only got, say, 10, 20, 50 pounds a month to invest?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Charlene, and I think the difficulty with answering it is that it varies really for people across your own financial situation. So I think if you're currently somebody sitting with savings and all of your money's in cash, and you're comfortable that you've got enough for a rainy day, is leaving it in cash really the best thing for you? And should you consider investing some of that, both in terms of helping you grow that financially, so that for your future, for your whatever your plans are for the future, but also how could you use that money to really create a positive impact for wider society? And I think both of those things are reasons why you should consider investing. I think all of the statistics, the financial statistics, point towards if you invest money over any 20-year period of time, it'll do better than it will in cash, and it has done historically over and over. So I think it's, if you're willing to take that long-term view, then you absolutely should consider investing. And I think for me, in terms of the amount, it shouldn't matter. If you've got £10 a month to invest, and that's how you dip your toe in the water and you start to understand a bit more and, you know, understand how your money can grow, that's I'm a major advocate of that. Is, you know, start small, understand, get to grips with what it is that you're doing, see how your money grows, and start to do more as you feel more comfortable, because I think a lot of it is a confidence thing. I know when I first started investing, which was too late, which is one of the reasons why I would always encourage people to begin early, with a small amount. When I started investing, it was like, it really was a confidence thing for me. You know, I've heard all about this over the years, but does it work for me? You know, what if I really need to get my hands on the money? And I think I've been really interested over time just about how that works for me, how it works for my family. But also I've been on that journey with a number of other people, customers, friends. And it's interesting that people that tend to start small and build up that confidence become really sticky investors. They start to see how their money can grow and make a difference, and that can really change their financial future.
Great. Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. And when it comes to performance, though, do people have to compromise on performance when it comes to impact or ethical and sustainable? I think there's a bit of a misconception that you do. What do you say to people about that?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that there is a kind of urban myth, if you like, that by investing in this way to create some kind of positive impact, that you have to sacrifice the positive financial impact to you. And investing ethically or sustainable isn't any different in terms of risk to investing in other ways. There is obviously risk attached to any investment, in terms of the long-term journey that you may have. But I think it's really interesting. We're starting to see, as sustainable and impact investing becomes older, if you like, in terms of how long it's been around, you start to see more data that really begins to support that there's not any evidence to suggest that you give up one for the other. And that's fantastic, because as that part of our industry grows and you get more and more data to prove and disprove that myth, it's great. And we've seen it in the short term during COVID, and we've also seen it in the longer term, in terms of how the data looks. So yeah, I think for consumers, I would encourage you always to understand what you're investing in, always try and understand what it is that you're putting your money into, but more importantly, understand the risk that's involved, and understand that myth is simply that. Look at the data and it'll tell you otherwise. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Another issue that some investors raise is that if you do invest in impact or sustainability, then you're actually limited in terms of the types of industries or the types of companies that you can invest in. And then you don't get that diversification, that spread of risk. Is that true?
I don't believe so, Charlene. I think that there's lots of ways that you can invest with impact, and that varies amongst us all. So your view on impact may be that you're willing to fund transition. So take a big energy company that traditionally hasn't done much for the environment that's positive, but they're trying to invest money in their business to move away from that. Your view might be that you're willing to fund that and you're willing to make that investment. My view might be, do you know what, I don't want to put any of my money that way. And I think the diversification thing comes back to what your personal values are and how you want your money to make a difference. And So if you have an extremely narrow group of investments that you want to make, inevitably that's going to narrow the diversification that you can get. But if you're willing to understand how impact can be created in the broadest sense, I think you can start to really see that diversification is there. I think the industry, in terms of the manufacturers, so the asset managers that make the funds, I think that there's definitely an opportunity there for them to create more impactful funds on the lower end of the risk scale. And we've started to see that come through in recent years, but I think that's got a bit more to go in terms of what products are out there for that risk profile. But in terms of diversification, I think it comes down to using an individual and what you're willing to include in your investing world.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I just want to move on to like greenwash. This is a big issue. As this type of investment is getting more and more popular, there are a lot more funds being labelled as sustainable or ESG and those types of things. So I've got kind of two questions on the greenwash bit. The first one is, do you have any tips for individuals, you know, just who are kind of new to investment? What kind of things can they look out for to make sure that they're getting what they expect from their investments? And the other question is around holdings and whether it's easy for them to access their holdings through big exchange.
Yeah, absolutely. I think greenwashing is absolutely something everybody should be vigilant about, because just because somebody says it's something, unless they're willing to show you that it matches that, then it's hard to square the two. And that headline label draws attention, but then does everything underneath it fit with the expectation? So I think for me, in terms of top tips, I would always encourage people to try and look under the bonnet as much as they can. So where a fund might say, tell you financial objectives and the broadest kind of impact that they're trying to create, understand most fund managers will tell you at least the top 10 holdings that they've got. Look at them, understand if they resonate with you. And I think that that's important. I also think the fund manager as a company is quite important. So looking at them and what they do, are they, you know, do they engage with companies that they invest in? I think that that's really important. But I do think in terms of greenwashing across the board, I think that the industry's got a way to go in terms of transparency on that. And that's something that we're really keen to drive change across the industry on. So greenwashing will remain a problem as long as completely transparent. Because if you're completely transparent, it's very hard to say that something's greenwashing, because you're showing everybody what it is that you've got. So a fund that's got typically 40 different companies that they invest in, it's hard for you as a consumer to understand what all 40 of those companies do. There's an element of trust there with the fund manager. So I think if they're not willing to show you what those companies are, that immediately would make me think, why can't I see that? And I think for us at the big exchange, at the moment, we're working on being able to be really transparent with everybody on everything that they hold and give them a kind of snapshot of what each of those companies do, so that they understand, you know, if their money has helped find a new, I don't know, say a new technology that identifies cancer early and improves the outcome of cancer, that's a brilliant health positive outcome. So yeah, I think it's really important that over time, I think the industry really needs to evolve to engage people and customers with what their money is actually achieving, because it's so powerful. You know, if we can all get our money into companies that are creating that positive change, whether it's health, whether it's climate, you know, whether it's a real a fund that addresses poverty, whatever it may be, the power of your money is really quite significant. And none of us probably think about our money like that it can be so powerful, but it really can be. And I think greenwashing is a great topic in terms of it highlights and makes everybody question. And I welcome that, because the more that you question it, the better outcomes that consumers will get.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you choose the types of investments that are included on your platform? How are you reassured that they will definitely have that positive impact that we're looking for?
So I think, well, initially no funds will be on our platform without going through our impact methodology. So every fund that comes onto the platform, before we even look at any of the financial statistics at all, which we do analyse in great detail, but before we do that, we do that proper look under the bonnet, see all of the companies that the fund holds, understand why the fund manager bought them, why they think it's positively impactful for society or the planet. And we really do that drains up. Let's look at everything under the fund. And we get that carried out independently. So we've developed a methodology, but in terms of making sure that we've got credibility and trust, we get an expert to come in, a company called 3D Investing, to come in and run that analysis for us. And then we allocate, depending on the positive impact the company the fund has, we allocate a medal to it so that consumers can see whether a fund's bronze, silver, or gold. Now, all of the funds create positive impact in varying degrees, and I don't think nobody should be put off by a bronze medal versus a gold medal, because all of them are creating positive impact, and all of those fund managers are on a journey to improve the impact they create and engage with those companies to create even more of an impact. So for us, it's a real living, breathing thing. But we really hope that for consumers, it helps them, that medal system helps them simply understand the impact that their funds can have. Once it's got through that impact methodology, we then look at all the financial statistics around the fund, and then it can come on the platform.
Great. And another way that people can really have an impact on a company's behaviour is through voting at AGMs. And there's a couple of new platforms that are sort of just being developed that are seeking to help, you know, ordinary individuals like me that are invested, helping us to actually use our vote and say what we want to see at those AGMs. What do you think of these platforms? Have you seen them, and do you think this is, something that's developing and a good way to go?
I think I welcome those platforms and the technology that underpins them, because the technology is a really key thing. Technology will really advance how positively impactful we can all be. I'm engaged with one of those platforms on a regular basis, and I do believe that it can make a real difference. I think for me, the biggest thing is engaging people on where their money is, right? If the only thing that's achieved is that you, Charlene, understand that your money is invested with a company, and that company, I don't know, hasn't done enough for diversity on their board, for example, and you use your vote to say, I'm not happy with that, so I'm going to vote you down because you said you were going to do something about diversity in your board, but you're not actually walking the talk, you're just saying it. So I think that's really powerful. And I think in an age of activism that we've seen across the board on multiple social issues and planet issues, I think that type of engagement is really powerful. It's very hard for fund managers to begin to not take that into account if all their underlying clients are saying, we want you to say this, this is what we believe, and it's where our money is, because the big thing is that we all own it. It's regular people's money, right? It's all of our money. So it's important that we get to have our say, but if it does nothing else other than raise awareness and that level of engagement, then I'm a massive supporter of it.
Amazing. And I just want to talk a bit about, you were just talking about diversity then. I want to talk about investor diversity. So we met because, I was trying to reach more women on impact investing. But I'm also interested in seeing more people of colour and people on lower incomes as well, just really getting those underrepresented groups interested in this and seeing it as an option for them. What are you seeing in terms of the customers that have started to sign up to the platform, and are there other things that you're doing to help with the diversity of your customer base?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for us, financial inclusion in its broadest sense is a huge issue. And that accounts for investing for all of the reasons that you've said in terms of diversity, but also including people that have always been savers and have never regarded themselves as investors. How do you create a platform that unites all of those segments of the UK public that have very different needs at different times? And for us, all of our marketing is centered around that financial inclusion. Anything that we do, all of the discussions that we have is really around that. And you have to balance that as a platform, because traditionally in financial services, what would happen is you would define a very specific target market and you would go after that target market. And historically, that has been very white and very male in terms of that segment. And that's why we've ended up in a situation where there's, you know, quite a lot of financial exclusion within investments, and women don't invest as much. However, we've really seen that change. I think long term, a huge driver of that is engaging people younger in investing, and getting millennials and younger understanding the power of their money from a young age. And I think that that will really help in the longer term. In the short term, I think all of us in the financial services industry have got a duty of care, you know, to check when we're pushing marketing out, is it targeted, you know, just at a very specific slice of the population? Because if it is, we're just perpetuating the problem. So we're very much engaging with people where they are in their everyday lives in terms of our marketing. And I think that will make a huge difference, and it's very important to us. I'm delighted to say that our initial, all of our customers so far, we've got a real diversity across the board in terms of age, gender, ethnicity, and that is really positive for us as an organisation, and proves out that it's possible, that we can do it. So yeah, I'm really passionate about that as well, Charlene. I think that everybody in society should be able to be included if they feel financially that they can be.
And when I first saw your branding, I just loved it. All those different faces that you've got of different ages, different colours, different styles. It really kind of represented like everyone. And yeah, I just thought that was just really new and different and exactly what the industry needs. So yeah, great branding, love it. So just, well, we've got one more question, and it is, at what point should a person actually go and seek professional financial advice from an advisor? At what point do you think they should invest in that?
Yeah, I think that's a really difficult question to answer, because it's really personal, right? For example, you might be a regular, you know, DIY investor and then inherit money because somebody's passed away, and the amount of money you inherit creates a complete change in your financial circumstances. And that you may not feel that you've got enough knowledge to tax plan for that, to, you know, all of the various things. So I think it's a really complex thing. I think for me personally, I have been involved in the kind of DIY investment industry for a long time now, and there's brilliant education tools out there. And I think finding out a good bit for yourself in the first place anyway is always really good, because then when you do speak to a financial advisor, you've got a certain level of understanding, and you can understand whether what they're saying to you can trust, and because a huge amount of everything that we do with our money involves trust. So I think for me, it's a really hard question to say, Charlene. I don't believe that there's a threshold or an amount of money, certainly not from my point of view. I think it really comes down to the circumstance. Because you could have no money to invest today and have all of a sudden, I don't know, have £30,000 to invest tomorrow, and you might not feel confident at all. And for you, then maybe financial advice is a good idea. But if I suddenly got an extra £30,000 tomorrow, I don't know, I got 5 numbers in the lottery, say, then I would probably feel quite comfortable about investing that myself. So it's a very personal thing, and I don't think you can be too prescriptive with it, in my view.
Fair enough. Jill, thank you so much. We really need more platforms like the Big Exchange, just creating that access to everyone, and just hearing you speak about it, it's just so clear, so accessible, you know, exactly what we need in the industry to get more people engaging with their money and engaging with investment and potentially growing their wealth, and at the very least protecting it. So just thank you so much for all the work you're doing. And I'm going to leave all your details in the description of this video so people can head over to your website to check it out.
Okay, thanks so much.